today is the day. President Trump's taxes will go before the Supreme Court. And the big question, are we going to get to see them? That is what is being argued this morning. Joining us now to discuss, Tim O'Brien. He's a senior columnist at Bloomberg Opinion and one of the few people who has actually seen President Trump's taxes. And Neal Katyal. He is the former acting solicitor general and a professor of law at Georgetown University. Tim, your latest piece is entitled, I've seen Trump's tax returns, and you should too. Why?
Because it's salient in terms of the president's own financial transparency, his own business dealings, the extent to which his actions or his policies are informed by his own financial self-interest rather than in what's in the best interest of the country or what's in the best interest of good policy. That's one of the things that's in play with the Supreme Court today. The other, obviously, is whether the president is above the law. And the cumulative efforts, I think, both by the Manhattan District Attorney and the Congress is to test both of these issues, whether or not the president exists above the law and how financially transparent the president should be. And these are core constitutional issues. The framers were concerned that any president could be bribed by a foreign or domestic power, hence the Emoluments Clause, which is in two different articles of the Constitution, requiring presidents to be above board about their finances. Unfortunately, the Trump era has shown that the laws we have in place currently and the ethics guidelines for federal officials don't do enough to address those problems.
All right, then is he above the law, or is the law written in such a way that he doesn't have to show them to us? Neal, you know these technicalities. Explain what's going to go down here.
Yeah, so we're going to have 2 hours of arguments starting at 10 a.m. There'll be 3 different cases jumbled into 2 different kind of oral arguments with 6 different advocates. You'll hear from President Trump's lawyers. You'll hear from the Solicitor General at the Justice Department, who's effectively representing President Trump in this case. And then you'll hear from the House of Representatives lawyer, as well as the Manhattan District Attorney. And I agree with what was just said. I think that this is a question really about first order legal principles. Is the president above the law? Do we have a system in place in which the president can say, I'm different than everyone else? He's already said you can't indict me. That's how he got out of the Mueller report allegations. Then he said you can't impeach me either. That's a hoax. Now today he's saying to the Supreme Court, you can't investigate me either. I don't have to turn over any information that Congress wants or that prosecutors want because I'm the president. Now, if that sounds unfamiliar to you as a student of American history, it's because it is unfamiliar. There's really no precedent for this. So his lawyers have a very, very hard argument today.
All right, quickly, Neal, speaking of student, I have to ask you, have you read all of those books behind you?
This is actually not a real background because you don't want to see my office, man.
That's amazing, because I was going to say I haven't even read that many book titles. All right, Tim, the rulings for this will not be released most likely until late next month. That is right before the conventions. And I know this is information that is very important, but I do have to ask politically, how does this play out? We are in the middle of a pandemic. This is going to be just before the conventions. And think about it. The Mueller report, even the impeachment, as important as they were, they did not have the impact that Democrats were banking on.
Well, I don't think the most important thing here is whether or not the actions today around his finances have an impact on the election. I think it's what it means for the presidency going forward. There's a criminal investigation going on in New York about whether or not the Trump Organization paid hush money to 2 women who said they had sexual encounters with the president. The DA wants to get access to the Trump Organization's records to solidify that case. The Congress wants access to his financial records so they can do a better job of overseeing the executive branch. That's something that's important in a nonpartisan way going forward for the presidency. And the long-term issues around this, I think, are what's most important.
Neal, take us to the Supreme Court.
But the one thing
for your average person now, yes?
I was just going to say, yes, it's important for the overall fabric of the presidency, but these cases are incredibly important to President Trump himself. The only reason he has not been indicted, according to the Mueller report, with some of the allegations, was because he's sitting president and can't be indicted. And that's his hope when it comes to all the financial improprieties that his lawyer, Michael Cohen, has already exposed to prosecutors. So he actually really needs to win this re-election to avoid jail time. And this case is an important precedent in establishing whether or not the documents will be revealed that ultimately may lead to the president's indictment once he leaves office.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.